Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast, where we dive deep into dating with PMDD, PMDD relationships, stress, triggers, PMDD rage, and really understanding how attachment styles play a role in PMDD relationship. So I am Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I've personally suffered with PMDD for over 19 years, and I've dedicated my practice to help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. My dissertation, the phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with PMDD, gave me insight and tools on how PMDD affects the partner who has PMDD as well as the partner who does not. So each week, I'll be sharing my specialized trauma transformational tools to help you rewire your PMDD brain, get rid of the stress during the luteal phase, and finally have the relationship that you both desire and deserve. So whether it's understanding PMDD triggers, controlling PMDD rage, or healing past trauma from events that have happened in your relationship, this is your space to rebuild your relationship, empower you to connect with someone while having PMDD, and ultimately grow stronger together. So to get private PMDD relationship counseling sessions or for more PMDD tools, go to inlovewithpmdd.com. Now let's get into today's episode. We got this. Today, I want to talk to you about what it's like when you are needing a change in your PMDD relationship and you've talked to your partner about certain things that need to change and you're getting frustrated because you feel like you're repeating yourself. You feel like you're having the same conversations every single month where you're telling your partner that you're not happy with this aspect of your PMDD relationship. They're telling you that they're not happy. And it seems like you're going through Groundhog Day and PMDD because every single time you go into your luteal phase, it's almost like the things that you're dissatisfied with are magnified. And then if you're the partner that doesn't have PMDD, it seems like for 2 to 3 weeks out of the month, you're just seeing all of these things where you're maybe not as connected as you would like to be. And it's just, you're not happy. And you're not happy with the state of the relationship. You're happy to be with your specific partner. So you know this is the person that you want to be with. You know this is your PMDD partner. This is your person. But you're not happy with what the relationship looks like. And you find yourself frustrated because you're going through the same thing again and again and again. And what happens is you end up getting burnt out because you don't have the endurance to see your situation be in the same place without any real changes. And a lot of times, when you're going to your partner and you're telling them that you need to change this area, you need to take more accountability, you need to stop saying hurtful words, you need to learn how to manage your PMDD rage, you need to be more supportive when I go into PMDD, you feel good initially when you're saying it to your partner. You're like, yeah, I'm doing something about it because I'm telling my partner what's going on. I'm telling them what needs to get done. But then you get more frustrated when after you've told them what needs to get done, nothing. And what I want you to really understand is nothing changes if nothing changes. And what I mean by that, if you don't do anything different in your PMDD relationship, it's going to look the same. You're going to be living the same reality. And if you know that you can pinpoint the specific area, because for everybody's relationship is different, but if you can pinpoint what is the specific thing that you're not satisfied with in your PMDD relationship, and you know that you've communicated it, then I know you may be thinking, well, Dr. Rose, what do I do? Like, I've told my partner what it is that I'm not happy with. I told them that I needed to change. I've threatened to break up. And a lot of times when you do that and you haven't gone anywhere, and I think I have an episode on this before, when you keep saying that you're going to break up, but then you don't really go anywhere, it kind of desensitizes your partner to hearing that you're going to break up because you've said it so many times and you've not done it. So whenever they hear it, when you get so frustrated and you're like, maybe we shouldn't do this, maybe we should just break up, it's almost like a little bit annoying to them. They're like, okay, here we go again. Like, you're going to leave me again, or you're going to break up with me again. And they're not taking it seriously because there's no action behind it. It's kind of like it makes you feel good in the moment. The ego loves when you go into PMDD to just say, forget it, I'm out of here, I'm done. Or if you don't have PMDD, sometimes you feel like by making a stance and really saying, I'm not going to continue to deal with this. At some point, I'm going to leave. And then you don't leave. Then if you say you're going to leave again, your partner's not going to take you seriously. Honestly, I know from working with so many private clients, after a while, it doesn't It doesn't land. Like it doesn't do what it's meant to do. And a lot of times I know that you're saying that you want to break up to get your partner to realize the magnitude, how serious you are about the issues that you're having in your PMDD relationship. And you're really saying to them, listen, I'm serious. I will leave this relationship if these things don't change. And if you are serious, if you really, really are serious, let's have a chat right now, because I'm going to show you what it looks like when your partner is not going to change. And the reason why I know this is because a lot of times what you're asking your partner to do, they don't need reminding. Your partner knows what to do to make the situation better. They know what to do. They know what help. They know what changes need to be made, because guess what? You've laid it all out to them. You've told them specifically, this is what I need to see. This is the change that I need to see. This is the kind of security I need to feel. This is the kind of safety I need to feel. This is the kind of intimacy that I need to feel in this relationship if this is going to work. You've already communicated that. And once you've said that and nothing has changed, you're frustrated. And so what I want to let you know, to be completely honest with you, and I know this from counseling hundreds and hundreds of partners and PMDD sufferers, some will change and some will not. And a lot of times the change it doesn't come to fruition because you finally told them exactly what to do. They don't need the strategy of what to do. If they're going to change, they're going to change. If they're not going to change, they're not going to change. And there's nothing that you can say and there's nothing that you can do besides burn yourself out. I've been in relationships like that before, where I've tried to give them all the tools, lay out the blueprint. All you need to do to save this relationship is this. All you need to do is this. I was doing double the effort to compensate for their lack of effort because I knew what it would take in order for the relationship to work. But guess what? They didn't want to change because they didn't want to change. It didn't mean enough to them. They didn't value the relationship enough for them to change. And I can't value it for them. Either your partner values you and they value the relationship and they're willing to make the changes to improve the areas of your relationship that is causing you both to suffer. Because guess what? If one of you is suffering, you're both suffering. And either they're willing to do something about it, or you're going to be spinning your wheels by over explaining yourself again and again and again, repeating yourself, getting bitter and resentful over saying the same things when they have no intention of changing. And this was so mind-boggling for me, because I'm like, who would want to stay in a situation that you're miserable? Like, of course you want to change. There has to be something that's preventing you from doing it. And it's like, no, there's nothing preventing them. They're just not going to do it. And I'm going to give you the 10 signs to show you that your PMDD partner is not going to change. They're not in the mindset of changing. But remember, when they want to change, they will. And I'll show you what that looks like. But I don't want you to waste your time repeating yourself. It's almost like you have a choice to make. When you realize that your partner is not going to change, you have to learn to accept the relationship as it is or walk away. And I've done both. I've just said, you know what? I know my partner's not going to change in this specific area. I just need to make myself be okay with it. And a lot of times when my private clients are coming to me, they're like, they've stopped asking for their partner to change. And they're like, Dr. Rose, how can I be okay with this? Like, for one of my exes, I had an issue with yelling and cursing at me. I don't care if you're cursing in general. If we're having an argument, I don't want to hear you cursing and yelling, because that's a trauma response for me. Like I have childhood trauma, and it puts me in a really bad place, and it makes me almost want to act out of character in defense of that. And I don't want to ever see that side of me again. So I have to put up this boundary of saying, I really can't be in a relationship where this is the norm. So I literally told my partner at the time, if we're going to do this, I need you to stop yelling when you're frustrated and cursing at me. And then of course they're like, I'm not cursing at you. I'm just cursing. And I'm like, yeah, but for me, I'm not good with that. That's a trigger for me. And of course it was like downplayed and minimized. And I was like I was the problem, because yelling and cursing is like this normal thing that everyone does. And I'm like, at some point I almost convinced myself, I'm like, am I the problem? Like, is it that I am overreacting to being triggered by this? And maybe I just need to be okay with the yelling and the cursing. And that's basically what my partner said at the time. Like, I'm not going to change yelling and cursing. It's a part of who I am. It's a part of my character. And I don't see anything wrong with it. So you pretty much need to change your reaction and being triggered to me yelling and cursing. And as soon as you do that, then we'll be fine. And I was like, my goodness. That was a sign. He was literally letting me know I have no intention of changing this specific thing that's triggering you. You're going to have to be the one to change, but it's not going to be me. And the sooner that I was able to accept that, like, I didn't want to accept it at first. I'm like, if I'm more loving, if I'm more like this, if I'm more like this, then he'll change. No, he literally was open and honest with me. I'm not changing this aspect of my personality, whether it triggers you or not. Basically, I don't care if I lose the relationship over this. I'm not changing this area. And I think a lot of times what we do is we don't really believe the things that are coming out of our PMDD partners' mouth. We don't believe what they're saying. We think that we can convince them otherwise. We think we can show them a better way. We can give them an incentive of changing instead of just literally listening and saying, you know what? They said they're not going to change. They're not going to change. So when I got to the point of actually believing this person, because I went through spinning my wheels and all these things and nothing changed, I couldn't be mad. I could not be mad at my partner at the time because they were very honest with me. And they showed me the signs that they weren't going to change. So I'm going to use this one example because there's so many different ways that you may want your partner to change, but let's just use the hurtful words. This is a common with all of my private clients is hurtful words do a lot of damage in PMDD relationships because of how much you're both triggered by the words and you can't really take them back. Yeah, you can apologize, but you're always going to remember what your partner said about you. So it's kind of like one of those things where you may say, hey, I can't be with someone that yells or curses or whatever. So let's get into it. So here's signs for you that your partner, your PMDD partner, the partner that has PMDD or doesn't have PMDD, it doesn't matter. You're both PMDD partners. These are signs that they're not changing. They're not going to change to make the relationship better. They're just not there right now. I'm not saying that they can never be there, but just know what you're dealing with. Like in my situation, I had to know that I'm dealing with someone that is genuinely not going to change in this specific area. And the sooner that I came to grips with that, the sooner I was able to stop wasting my energy on convincing them to change, showing them that they should change, telling them all the reasons why they should change, comparing them to other people and saying, you can change, you have the ability to change. They know they can. They're just not in the mindset to do it. And here's the sign. Number one, they blame PMDD for everything. Instead of taking personal responsibility for their actions, they use PMDD as an excuse for their behavior without making an effort to manage their symptoms. So this could be for the partner that has PMDD. They're making excuses and saying, I can't control my emotions. You know, I have PMDD. I can't control my PMDD rage. I can't control the way I isolate. I can't control the way I shut down. I can't control the way I get super clingy. All of the things that are causing an issue and a trigger in your PMDD relationship, your partner's literally telling you, I can't control it. It's just PMDD. I have no control over it. And I'm here to tell you, as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 19 years, yes, you can. Does it take the strategic tools? Is it harder? Does it cause effort? Is it going to magically happen? It's not going to magically happen, but there is a way for you to do it. And with someone who's not going to change, has already made up in their mind that PMDD makes me this way, and it is what it is. They have no intention of changing because they're blaming it on PMDD. When you blame it on PMDD instead of taking personal accountability, then the only thing that can happen for you to change is for PMDD to go away. They're literally telling you that as long as I have premenstrual dysphoric disorder, I am not going to change my behavior in this specific way. They're telling you. And you as the partner listening to that need to really understand that and really ask yourself, is this something that I can handle? Because they're literally telling you, I'm not changing. You're going to basically have to accept this behavior or not be with me. And what my ex was doing and at the time was saying, when I was in my luteal phase, when I got into PMDD, it triggered him so much. And that's when he became frustrated. And that's when he said all the hurtful words. And that's when he was yelling and cursing. So basically, because of the fact that I had PMDD, he was always going to be this way. So this was not a situation where he was taking personal responsibility for his inability to manage his emotions. He was basically saying, because you have PMDD and because you're the one that triggers me, I'm just going to be like this. And so the next sign that your PMDD partner is not going to change, and again, when I say partner, I'm talking about the one that has PMDD and the one that does not. They refuse to learn more about PMDD. So I have this course called My Partner Has PMDD, Now What? And I have had so many of you reach out and say that you want your partner to take the course. You want them to understand more about PMDD, specifically PMDD relationships. I talked to you a couple episodes back and said, just sending your partner an article about what PMDD is, it's not going to show them how to be a more supportive PMDD partner, how to show up in the PMDD relationship, how to get their needs met in the PMDD relationship. And so if they're in this place where they're refusing to get the course, you know that when I'm describing it to you, it resonates with you and it's something that you need, but they're refusing to learn more about it. They're not willing to take the time to understand how PMDD impacts them and how it impacts the relationship and how it impacts how they're showing up as a partner. They're not willing to do it. So this is a sign that they're not willing to change. They know that they need help in this specific area. They've taken the accountability. Maybe they said, you know what, I could be better in this specific area. And you're like, okay, great. I'm glad that you're taking accountability for it. Now, this is what you need to do. You need to take this course so that you can understand how to be a more supportive PMDD partner, because I'm telling you, I need you to be more supportive in the relationship. And they're just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Or they start making excuses for not learning more about PMDD and how to be a better PMDD partner. And for the individual that has PMDD, they may be in a place where it's like your partner is saying, you need to learn how to control your PMDD rage. You need to learn how to control your emotions when you're in your luteal phase, and how you talk to me, and the anger and the outbursts and the verbal abuse and the physical abuse and all these things. Like, you need to figure out a way to handle this better, because we can't keep going month after month. We've had these big explosive, arguments and fights, and things have been broken and things have been said, and the kids have even seen it. And they're just like, I don't need to learn more about PMDD. I don't need to learn more about my PMDD rage. It is what it is. That means they're not willing to change. They don't want to learn more about PMDD and what specific help that they can get in that specific area. They're not willing to do it. And so the next sign that they're not willing to change is they won't communicate effectively during the luteal phase or when they're triggered. They shut down, they avoid the difficult conversations, or they lash out instead of working through the issues. Their communication basically is not conducive to wanting to improve the PMDD relationship. It basically sucks, because you know that there's something wrong with them. You know that, they're shutting down, and you're like, what's going on, babe? Like, what's going on? And they're not wanting to talk about it because they're wanting to avoid another PMDD fight. There's this level of avoidance that's basically saying, you know what? I feel like every single time we talk about this issue, it turns into a fight, so I'm good. So they're avoiding the difficult conversations. Maybe you're in this place where you're like, we have a lot of changes going on in our life, and we really, really, really need to get PMDD relationship counseling sessions. And they're refusing to communicate about the things that are really happening during the counseling sessions. They're saying, I don't want to get the sessions, because they're not wanting to address it. But then every single time you have a fight or an argument, they're lashing out about the issues, because the issues don't go anywhere. Just because you're not having the counseling sessions and uncovering the issues doesn't mean that they go away. Just because your partner's not bringing it up doesn't mean that it doesn't still bother them. And what happens is, when you get in a fight, you get in an argument, that's when it all comes out. That's when the anger comes out. That's when the bitterness comes out. That's when all of these things happen, because you can't heal what you don't reveal. PMDD literally will try to rip the blanket off of every issue that you have. But if you keep covering it back up and saying, I'm fine, and just wanting to just enjoy your follicular days and almost like live in la la land, like you want to live in this delusional land that there's nothing wrong with your PMDD relationship. And trust me, I'm not saying that as a way of shaming you or blaming you. I've been there too, where I've been like, listen, we get along great during our good days, during our follicular days. I don't want to mess that up by talking about the issues that we have in our PMDD relationship. So let me just be completely quiet during my luteal phase. Let me hold everything in, hold in my triggers. Maybe I just need to learn how to just suck it up, holding it in. So I'm holding it in, my partner's holding it in. And then when we get in our follicular days, we're pretending like we're completely happy and we're not holding all of this stuff in. And the thing about that is not sustainable. I understand if you're going to visit family and friends and you need to talk about a certain issue, and you're saying, okay, we're going to go in here. We're not going to talk about the issue. We're going to have a good time, because we need to have a good time. We need to reconnect. But then later on, we're going to have a session with Dr. Rose and really talk about the things that are really bothering us. That I've seen has been very helpful, because you're choosing not to ignore your issues. You're going to communicate about them, but this might not be the right place and time for that. So strategically talking about your issues is fine. Just completely avoiding them and not communicating about them is not sustainable, because you're going to get bitter and resentful because your partner's never really going to know what's going on with you. So the next sign that they're not going to change is they reject any kind of help or support that you're offering. You keep saying you need to have sessions with Dr. Rose, and they're refusing to do it. We need to write down our issues and our triggers. They're refusing to do it. Any kind of support that will help them in their journey with PMDD, they're just refusing. They're giving you an excuse of why it doesn't work. We've already done this. We've already been to therapy. We've already been to counseling. You've already taken the supplements. You've already done this. You've already given up. When you get to that place of making excuses and saying that nothing that you can do is going to change or is going to help, guess what? That means that they're not going to change. They've accepted the relationship as is. Have you ever bought something as is and it has that little disclaimer on it? Like basically like a car, when you buy it as is, it's like, there's no warranty on this. We're not going to be helping you fix it. It's like whatever happens, if it breaks down, it breaks down. You're accepting it as is. When someone is rejecting help in the PMDD relationship, they're basically saying, take this relationship as is. So if you're on the other side of that and you're not happy with the relationship as is, that's the problem, because they're not in the mindset to change anything. The next sign that they're not willing to change is they keep repeating the same harmful patterns. If every single month you keep having the same fights with PMDD rage, with the emotional outbursts, or the same shutting down and like really getting rid of intimacy, and they happen with no effort to change or improve, like you're seeing the same behaviors that are triggering you. You're seeing the same behaviors that are making you not want to be in the relationship, that are not meeting your needs, that are making you literally say, I didn't sign up for this. I had a client reach out this week and they gave me permission to share this. And they literally was like, Dr. Rose, I'm done. I didn't sign up for this. And I really had to work with them and be like, okay, well, what did you sign up for? Because did you know that your partner has premenstrual dysphoric disorder? Did you know what I mean, how it was going to impact the relationship and the work that was going to have to be done? And when they walked away and they said, I'm done, it's because their partner was expecting them to do all the work. They basically sent them to work with me without taking accountability for anything that they were bringing into the relationship. So that's the next sign that their partner wasn't willing to change. They expect you to do all the work. They assume you should handle everything. You learn how to manage your PMDD rage. You learn how to manage your emotional outbursts. You learn how to manage your triggers. You learn how to be patient and not take PMDD personally, without taking accountability for any aspect of the relationship and saying, you know what, we both need to work on our PMDD relationship. I have things I need to work on. You have things you need to work on. And for some people, different things impact them different ways. So maybe your partner who has PMDD needs to work on their PMDD rage. Maybe you as a partner needs to work on stop shutting down every single time you see a sign of PMDD and going and hiding and hibernating because you don't want to have another PMDD outburst. Because you cannot, that's not sustainable for you to stay shut down and for them to keep going off on PMDD rage because it's scaring you. And I get that for the partners that are receiving the PMDD rage, it scares you. And it makes you go into this place of shutting down because you don't know what they're capable of. They're acting so out of character that you're kind of like, I'm walking on eggshells. That's what my program is about, how to stop walking on eggshells in your PMDD relationship. This is why I made that program for the partners, because I know that you're walking on eggshells because you don't know what to expect. Because it's not the true character of the person. Like when you feel like you know a person, it's like you know what they would be willing to do and what they're not willing to do. But when your partner doesn't know how to control their PMDD rage, you're like, I don't know what they're willing to do because I really don't resonate with this person. Like I don't know. And so the next sign that your partner is not going to change is they don't acknowledge how PMDD affects you. This was something that I really had to come to terms with earlier in my journey when I was suffering with PMDD and I was in the depths of it. And I literally said to a partner one time, I'm like, I'm the one with the symptoms. You don't have the symptoms. This is before I got my degree, by the way, which is one of the reasons that made me want to study partners so much, to understand what they go through. Because I literally, in my brain, before I did all my research, I literally thought I was the only one with the symptoms. And what I learned through my dissertation, which is right behind me, which is the study of the partners of individuals who are in PMDD relationships, specifically on the partners. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages in my dissertation is only about the partner and understanding their struggle in the relationship and really understanding how the symptoms that they genuinely have. And one of the biggest symptoms that really was the biggest wake up call for me, with me really understanding how much PMDD affects the partners, was the suicidal ideations. You know, us who have premenstrual dysphoric disorder, we're used to telling people our symptoms and saying, you know, one of the worst symptoms that I have is suicidal ideations or suicidal attempts. And we never think that the partner could ever have that. And and again, this is not just research, this is interviews with people all over the country, in over 60 countries. Suicidal ideations was one of the biggest symptoms because of the hopelessness, because of the burnout, because of the caregiver burnout, because of the vicarious trauma. All of those things impacted the partners, and nobody was talking about how much the partner was impacted. So when you get to this point, the signs that your partner's not going to change, they're not acknowledging that PMDD affects you too as the partner. They're not willing to change their behavior because they feel like, because they're the ones that have the symptoms, they're the only ones that are impacted. And so the next time that they won't change is they won't try any coping strategies. They refuse to use any tools on their PMDD because they just say, I've tried everything. When you get into this mindset of saying, I've tried everything, I'm not going to try anything more, that's when you know they're not going to change. They've literally given up. They've literally given up in a way of saying, it's always going to be like this, take it or take it. So the next thing that they'll do if they're not going to change is they'll make empty promises to you. And I've seen this so many times where they start working with me and they're like, I'm going to start working with Dr. Rose and we're going to do this and we're going to do this. And then I give you the tools and then they don't come back for the next month. So the partner originally is really happy. They're like, finally, they're willing to get the help. They're willing to do it, but it's not sustainable. This is why I have my PMDD, the monthly couples package, because you need ongoing support. This is not a one-stop shop where you just go to one month of sessions and you're cured. There's so much trauma that is beneath everything that has gone on in your PMDD relationship. If you really think about how long it took for you all to go through all that you went through, the change is not going to happen in one session. And so I'll be very honest with you. And this is why the bulk of my packages this year in 2025 and moving forward are packages, because it's not just one thing. A lot of times what happens is when you have one private session with me and you're not in any ongoing package, we'll do a lot of work in a specific area. And then you'll backtrack by not having that continuous support. And then we start back at ground zero. And then you call me and you say, Dr. Rose, I need a session because we're about to break up. And so it's almost like this firefighter mentality where I keep putting out these fires in your PMDD relationship, which I can do. But then moving forward, there's no continued support, because then you go through the next issue and you're back at square one because you don't have that continuous support. So one of the ways that I really would advise you to get the help is the PMDD Power Couples. It's a group counseling membership that I'm just opening up for the month of February. It's just going to be launching. It's going to be all new. It's going to be weekly counseling sessions. It's the most affordable way to work with me. I'm going to tell you right now, before you ask, only $97 a month. So I know there's so many people that have said, Dr. Rose, I saw your prices change. I want to be very transparent. My prices have changed since 2024, the ending of 2024. And it's mainly to serve you for everything that I'm putting into your sessions, everything that I'm giving you. And I don't want to leave anyone out, because obviously the podcast is very free. It's free 99. It's not free to produce it. It's not free for me to pour my energy and do any of this, but I'm giving this to you as a free resource. And then also the PMDD Power Couples, we will meet on their group counseling every single week. You can come on there with the questions, and it's really great. And the reason why I started it is because I've been doing a lot of group counseling sessions for just trauma. So because I am a traumatologist and I have a lot of clients who don't have PMDD, who are just going through a lot of trauma in their relationships, and having those group counseling sessions to be able to just see. Sometimes it's just seeing, because the emails that I've gotten back is just to see that I'm not alone and that we're not the only ones going through this. Is so helpful, and it's getting the tools. So this is not going to be another group where everybody is coming in there talking crap about their partner, talking about how bad their struggle is, and you're not getting any tools to actually change things in your PMDD relationships. I never leave you in a place where you're just exposing the things that are wrong in your relationship without giving you the tools. I don't do that here on the podcast. I don't do that in my private sessions. And I'm definitely not going to be doing it on the group counseling. This is not going to be a venting session. It's not talk therapy where you're just talking about the issues that you have in your relationship. I'm actually going to address them and give you the tools just like I would as my private client. So if that's something that you know that you need help with and you're like, Dr. Rose, maybe I'm not in a place where I can afford any of your packages or even your private sessions, but I can afford $97 a month, which is less than $3.33 a day to invest in your PMDD relationship. It's kind of like the next one. They threaten to leave instead of working through the issues. You're willing to break up with your partner before actually getting help. Instead of finding solutions, they use PMDD as a reason to push you away and constantly threaten breakups every single month. This is a sign that they're not going to change. They're always going to be in this place of their solution is to break up. And you'll be able to see the pattern in your PMDD relationship. If you know that like, hey, my partner's saying they're going to break up again, that's their solution. That's the only thing that they know to do in order to feel like they're doing something about it. I get it because cognitively, the brain is like, you need to do something. You need to do something. There's almost this level of anxiety that you'll feel if like things can't stay the same. So you saying that you want to break up seems like a valuable solution because it is a solution. Like you're like, at least I'm saying something. Like, at least I'm doing something. So let me give you the flip side of this. Those were signs that your PMDD partner is not going to change in the PMDD relationship. Let me give you 10 signs that they are willing to change. So this is where all of you who are like, I'm losing hope in my PMDD relationship. If your partner is showing these signs, then that means that they're willing to change. You just have to be the one to help them by saying, okay, make sure you're both on the same page. Because if things are going to change in your PMDD relationship, you don't have to start off where you're both willing to change. Like one of you, I work with clients where I'm just working with one and then they're seeing the positive changes and then the partner comes later on. But these are going to be really good signs that they're willing to change. They acknowledge PMDD's impact on your relationship. They're not trying to deny the fact that it's PMDD that's causing a lot of the issues in your PMDD relationship. They recognize that PMDD is impacting the both of you. They're not recognizing it as a way of an excuse of saying, hey, PMDD is a problem, so what are we going to do? They're open to discussing how PMDD is impacting the relationship. And a lot of times I know that's hard for the partners who have premenstrual dysphoric disorder and are in that place of just accepting it, because I know what you're thinking. You're like, we have so many other issues in our relationship. Like the only reason that we're fighting is not PMDD. It's so many other things. Yes. But PMDD is probably one of the main things. And PMDD will exasperate every single issue that you genuinely have in your relationship. So I'm not negating the fact and saying that you don't have any other issues in your relationship, but PMDD is going to rip the blanket off of it. And unless you address it and get help with it, PMDD is going to make your life literally miserable, not just for you, but for your partner as well. And even the kids that are able to see that there's no connection, there's no intimacy, there's no happiness, there's no love, all of these things, it's not just impacting you, it's impacting everyone around you. So the next sign that your PMDD partner is willing to change is they take responsibility for their actions. If you bring up something that they're doing, if they're saying the hurtful words to you, if they're yelling at you, they're cursing at you, instead of blaming PMDD entirely for their behavior, for being triggered, they admit when their behavior has hurt you and they show a desire to do better. They're like, you know what, babe, you're right. I went too far. I really need to learn how to manage my emotions. I was just so frustrated and I was so overwhelmed, and I just need to learn how to manage this better because it really gets underneath my skin when this specifically happens. But I'm taking responsibility that I should have treated you better. That's signs that they're willing to change because they're recognizing that yes, the situation sucked. Maybe you backed them in the corner. Maybe PMDD happened and backed you both into a corner, but they're taking personal responsibility for their actions. They're not blaming it on PMDD and they're not blaming it on you. And the next sign is they're open to learning more about PMDD. So they're actively researching PMDD. They're listening to this In Love with PMDD podcast. They're asking me, like, what are the tools that you have? You know, one of the things that really inspires me so much is when I have partners come and say, Dr. Rose, these are things that are happening in our PMDD relationship. What can I do to be better? So they're open to learning more about it and they're willing to seek help. Sometimes partners will even buy the sessions for the individual that's suffering with PMDD. They're like, it really hurts me to see my partner suffering so much with their premenstrual dysphoric disorder symptoms. And I know that they're struggling with managing them. So I'm going to get this package for them. And it really makes me like they genuinely want to support their partner, but they just don't know how. And they're willing to accept that and that takes a lot of, it's like an unconditional love because you're not in this egotistical place where you're saying, I have all the answers. I'm the one that's going to help you. I'm going to go get this help. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to go get this help in the area that I know I don't really have the tools, but I know that you need help in this area. So I am going to help you help yourself. And that's what a supportive PMDD partner does. They see the area that the partner is struggling with and they don't try to pretend like they have all the answers. They're literally like, you know what? I'm going to help you. If you're willing to get help, I'm going to help you on this journey. Like, let's figure it out. Let's go over the budget and because I know a lot of you are seeing other counselors, psychologists, therapists for other issues that you may be having. And so when you go to work with me, it's like, let's prioritize this. Let's move some stuff around. It is possible. They're willing to change things in your PMDD relationship so that you can get the help that you need. And so the next sign that they're willing to change is they communicate more effectively. Even when it's hard, they're not shutting down. Even when it's hard and they're pissed off and they're triggered, they're not disrespecting you. They're not blaming you. They're not shaming you. They're not criticizing you, even when they feel like they want to. Because I'm not saying that they're never going to feel triggered and they're never going to feel like they want to yell and scream and all the things. I mean, if you have PMDD, you probably feel the same way. But they're trying really hard to communicate in a way that doesn't do damage. They're taking a walk. They're pausing. They're doing something that's regulating their emotions before they're talking to you. That's a sign that they're willing to change because they're willing to come outside of themselves and their emotions in order to monitor how they are showing up to you. That's the level of respect and value that they have for you. And then the next sign is that they're willing to change is they apologize. And then they say, what can I do to make it better? When they hurt you during PMDD or even outside of PMDD, they genuinely apologize. And then they're willing to take steps to repair the damage. Repairing the damage is so important because if you just apologize and you just say sorry, that doesn't repair everything. It's like, sorry is sorry. Yes, I know you're sorry, but what is it that you're going to do differently so that this doesn't happen again? When you start to see your partner willing to do that, that's showing that they're willing to make changes in the relationship that is going to help. And so the next sign is they show effort in breaking negative patterns. If they see that the same thing negatively is happening again and again and again in a relationship, and instead of repeating the same destructive cycles that are so frustrating, they're actively working on handling their triggers, handling their behaviors, handling their actions, handling their thought process, rewiring their PMDD brain to not react the same way that has been causing damage in your PMDD relationship. And the next sign is they show consistency, not just promises. Change is visible in their actions over time. So this is what I mean by consistently having that support with either the PMDD Power Couples, which is going to be launched. You'll see the link in the show notes, the PMDD Power Couples. They're making changes with consistency. They're saying, okay, I know we're consistently going to need help in this area. I'm willing to be consistent to coming on these sessions. And there will be replays available because I know that I have clients and listeners in over 60 countries, but you will get a copy of the replay if you can't come live. I will be coming live. I believe it's going to be 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tuesdays, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, and I believe that's like 6 p.m. UK time. So I'm trying to spread it out so that it is literally available to you. It's going to be a 90-minute. If you're my private client, I do 90 minutes. I don't do anything in 60 minutes. And I think that's number one. I think it's what adds value to my private sessions and how it's been with all my private clients, specifically when there's two people, because when you're just going to a counselor, therapist, psychologist, all the things, and you're just getting 60 minutes, it's kind of like when you get a massage and you pay for 60 minutes, but then it takes you 10 minutes on the front and you got to undress and then you have 5 minutes on the back end. So my best friend is a massage therapist. And she literally says, when you go to pay for a massage and you pay for 60 minutes, you only have 45 minutes, what she calls hands-on body. She's only working with you for actually 45 minutes because the time that it takes for you to undress, the time that it takes for you to lay down, the time that it takes for you to put your clothes back on, there's only 45 minutes of actual therapy going on, massage therapy going on. So if you think of that in a sense of having with two people, that's not a lot of time. It's like 20 some minutes per person. That's not a good value for me. I used to do 60-minute sessions in the beginning when I was coaching, and it just doesn't give you enough time to just talk about everything that you're going through and get the tools. So this is why a lot of times when you go to a therapist and you get the 60-minute session, the bulk of that is just talking about what's going on. So it leaves very little time for that counselor therapist to actually give you feedback. And the feedback may be like one or two sentences because they're letting you get it all out, what you need to do. But with the way that my sessions are so effective is that you get a chance to get everything out one at a time, specifically with couples. And then I give you the tools and we work through the tools and we agree to the tools and I customize the tools. So there's a lot that goes into my private sessions that gives you a lot of value in that 90 minutes. And that's what's going to be going on with the PMDD Power Couples group counseling community. So if that's something that you know that you need, you want to get started and you're saying that, I want to find a way to fit it into my budget, go do that. It's literally $97 1 month. 4 different times you will be able to meet with me live or get the recording with the tools on there. So this is honestly the best way that I can serve the bulk of you who have been coming to me. So I hear you and I'm providing that to you. So I want you to really think, just listen to this episode. Send this episode to your partner to get them to understand. Send the episode to your partner. Send this episode to people in your PMDD community because I don't want you repeating the pattern of burning yourself out. We don't have a lot of energy. The ones of us who have premenstrual dysphoric disorder, we already do not have a lot of energy, emotional energy. We do not need to be wasting it on someone that is genuinely not going to change. And this is what I said on my very first episode. You can go back hundreds and hundreds of episodes, is call your partner out. Do it in love, but call your partner out. Let them listen to this episode and say, hey, babe, like, based off of this episode, it doesn't look like you're really, like you're saying that you want to change, you saying that you want things to be different in the PMDD relationship, but you're showing signs that you're not willing to change. Or I'm so grateful that you're showing signs that you're willing to change. Here are the next steps. Here is what we can do moving forward. When you're getting to that point where you're saying, I see that you're willing to change. Maybe your partner is showing the signs of the 10 ways that they're willing to change. Okay, I love that you're willing to do this, that you're willing to try new coping strategies, that you're willing to seek help, that you're willing to apologize. The next step is either to get a private session with me or to join the PMDD Power Couples and get that ongoing, consistent support in your PMDD relationship, because PMDD is not going anywhere. You want your relationship to be as solid as possible to stop those monthly fights and arguments. So until next episode, and until I see you in our private sessions or our group counseling membership, the PMDD Power Couples, until next time, we got this. I love you. I hope these tools help you and your PMDD partner. If you have not enrolled to get the course, My Partner Has PMDD, now what? Then you want to make sure that you are one of the first 12 individuals that gets the course for the month of December to get that complimentary private session with me. And then after that, it'll go back to regular price without the private sessions. But what this course is going to do for you is give your partner all of the tools that they need on how to be a supportive PMDD partner. What does that look like? I always say that your partner doesn't need more information. They need more implementation. They need more transformational tools. And this is the program for you. So I'm looking forward to you getting those tools in the program. And until next episode, we got this.